road tripping to New Orleans. Samuel Adams, for the love of beer and football. Go RVing. Find your away at GoRVing.com. Continue to doubt the Baltimore Ravens if you must, but you shouldn't. That's what the numbers say. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. He's Kerry Byrne of Cold Hard Football Facts. Well, you got some interesting numbers here that say you shouldn't be so surprised by that, especially in recent history.
Well, the Baltimore Ravens are this year's bracket buster. We talk about bracket buster right in the NCAA tournament, and that's what they are. 10-6 team. Usually, historically, very few 10-6 teams would make it to the Super Bowl. But the interesting thing, Butch, is that's changing. Now, it used to always be the top couple seeds were in the Super Bowl. Not so much anymore, and it's pretty dramatic how suddenly that's turned, where you can be a 10-6, 9-7 team and get to the Super Bowl.
So let's look at some specific numbers that rank just how quote-unquote bad by the numbers this Baltimore team is to get to the Super Bowl.
Yep. Well, let's look at passer rating differential, right? We call it the mother of all stats, and only a couple teams have been negative in that number. And there's been 92 now, 94 Super Bowl teams. The Ravens are number 12 among all teams in NFL history at the worst passer rating differential. Usually, if you're in the Super Bowl, you have a great passer rating differential. We always talk about how important it is to win the battle of passing efficiency, but most notably, Butch, the worst teams have all come recently. That's the key. The 2007 Giants, the Rams were an exception. The 2008 Cardinals, a lot of these teams, including the 2011 Giants, if you go further down the list, 2006 Bears, and now the 2012 Ravens, are all teams that just played very recently. It's only recently that you could be kind of an average team in the regular season and make a run to the Super Bowl. It's very interesting.
It's interesting because no matter how do you get to that differential, whether you're strong on offense or strong on defense against the pass, I would argue that if you look at the Ravens this year, while they're not the greatest passing team in the world, when they needed to, they could pass for touchdowns, i.e. the game against Denver. They needed a touchdown, they threw for a touchdown.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little later about some of Joe Flacco's incredible downfield numbers in the postseason here. But the key is, though, this was not a particularly good team. I mean, even if you look at point differential, this is one of the worst teams in NFL history. And to reach the Super Bowl in terms of point differential, number 7 all time among the 94 teams to reach the Super Bowl, only 6 had a lower point differential than the Ravens. Again, speaks to the fact that you don't have to be great in the regular season anymore to get to the postseason. And the key for the Ravens, and you and I talked about it off camera, they've kind of had a cycle to their season. They were 9-2, a dominant team, right? And we all thought they could go to the Super Bowl. Had some injuries, went 1-4 down the stretch. Now all of a sudden they're back to that team now that they're healthy that we saw before. So for whatever reason, that long season, that cycle has worked in their favor.
Well, that up and down, that roller coaster for them, like a lot of teams. I mean, you make a point that they're one of just 12 Super Bowl teams to lose 2 or more games by 17 or more points. That sort of plays into the differential. I mean, the Patriots' differential was great because they scored, 30-plus points a game every game, and it just kept going up there. They never had those losses by 2 touchdowns or more.
Yeah, and it didn't obviously didn't help the Patriots too much in that game. And the Patriots, a whole other interesting story on how they've had all these great offensive teams, right, that have kind of failed to get it done in the postseason, kind of the antithesis of these teams that weren't very good, the 2007, 2011 Giants, now the 2012 Ravens that weren't very good, but made a big run no matter how shaky they might have looked during the regular season. And then the key is, Butch, when you look at the worst records ever to make the Super Bowl, almost all of them have been very recently. It's really dramatic. If you look at it, there's only been 7 teams with 9 or 10 wins. Actually, the 1967 Packers went 9-4-1, but in a 14-game season, they still had a much better record than these teams. But only 7 teams have been 9-7 or 10-6. At Butch, they almost all played recently. We're talking 2007 Giants, 2008 Cardinals, 2010 Packers, 2011 Giants, and 2012 Ravens, one after the other, where teams that shouldn't be in the Super Bowl are getting to the Super Bowl. Historically, every Super Bowl team had 11 or 12 wins or more, and all of a sudden that's changed. We have bracket busters every year now, and it's just kind of an interesting phenomenon in the NFL.
So let me ask you the ultimate question. All these numbers show that over the course of the marathon, the NFL season, that the Ravens clearly were not one of the favorites to get there heading into the playoffs. But like a lot of other teams and recent teams, they've gone 3-0 to get there. And this last number is intriguing to me. 3 teams have had 9-win seasons, 79 Rams, 08 Cardinals, and the 11 Giants last year, and gone on to the Super Bowl. 2 of those teams have won the Super Bowl. 4 teams now, the Ravens being the 4th, have had 10-win seasons. that have gone on to go to the Super Bowl. So the fact that their roller coaster is heading up right now, all bets are off no matter what the odds are on this game.
No, it really is. And, we always talk that parity doesn't exist in the NFL, and we look at the same teams being in the conference title games, especially in the AFC, over and over, the same teams in the playoffs. But where you can argue for parity now is that we definitely see a kind of a dramatic shift, and it really began with the realignment of 2002, because you only have to be the best of 4 teams to make the playoffs. And we've seen a dramatic change in the way that the playoffs play out, where sometimes you get advantageous meetings in the postseason that you might not have got before. But for whatever reason, now more than ever, you don't have to be a great regular season team to make a run in the Super Bowl. And that's totally unique historically. It's a sign that, if you want to argue on behalf of parity, that it does exist in the NFL.
He is Kerry Byrne. If you are a newbie to Cold Hard Football Facts, check out the website. If you haven't been here before, find out what all the numbers are all about as you prepare for next football season and think about this Super Bowl. If you've been a part of Cold Hard Football Facts, you know we've been doing these videos all year long. You also know that Kerry has the numbers that correlate to victory. Check it out at coldhardfootballfacts.com.